Good morning, everyone. My name is Robert Hersey. Happy Friday to each of you. And on behalf of FATA, welcome to today's webinar titled Disaster Relief, Supporting Families Through Hurricanes and the Path to Resilience. This webinar is being made available through a collaboration between the Florida Department of Children and Families and FATA. Please note that as an attendee, you are in listen-only mode and are only able to view your name. Your webcam and microphone have been disabled. If you have questions, please send them using the chat panel. Please use the chat panel to send any questions you may have as you think of them. We will answer questions as time permits. Our audio is broadcast through the internet to your computer. If you experience poor computer audio at any time during today's presentation, there are a few options to try using the audio connection panel. For computer audio, click the up arrow next to unmute, then click the switch audio connection button. Click disconnect. Click the up arrow and switch audio connection button again, then click call in using computer and follow the instructions. If you continue to experience poor audio through your computer, try using the I will call in option. The access code and event password will be posted in the chat panel momentarily. You must be connected to the audio of this presentation as well as view it on screen to receive a statement of credit. We are unable to verify attendance if you are not connected to WebEx via a computer or the mobile app. Therefore, phone call only attendees are not eligible for a statement of credit or CEUs. The recording and materials used in today's presentation will be available on the FATA website within 30 business days. To access the recording and PowerPoint, visit www.fata.org, navigate to the Resource Center, and click on Training Library as shown on the screen. FATA produces many webinars and workshops through the support of the Florida Department of Children and Families. To help participants track credits earned through attendance, we host an online community that provides a personalized digital journal where participants can maintain statements of credit for webinars and workshops taken through FATA. A statement of credit and CEUs for up to 2 continuing education credits are available for participating in today's webinar. CEUs are available for persons licensed through the Board of Nursing, the Board of Clinical Social Work, Marriage and Family Therapy, Mental Health Counseling, and for persons credentialed through the Florida Certification Board. Completing the evaluation is necessary to receive CEUs or to access your statement of credit. Please note that the evaluation will close at the end of the day on Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. At the end of today's webinar, you will have 3 opportunities to complete the evaluation: a link posted in the chat, a follow-up email from WebEx, and an automatic web browser pop-up when the webinar ends. To complete the evaluation, you will first need to register or sign into your FATA account. Please ensure your name and email address match the name and email you used to register with WebEx. Information you provide FATA as part of registering remains confidential. If you are a licensed healthcare practitioner, be sure to include your Florida license number for reporting to CE Broker when you register with our site for the first time. If you are certified with the Florida Certification Board or licensed outside the state of Florida, you do not need to provide your license or certification number when you register. If you need assistance with account registration, login information, or accessing the evaluation, fill out a contact form on our website or email training@floridabha.org. Please note that WebEx monitors the arrival and departure times of attendees and provides a report upon completion of the event. We are not permitted to provide a statement of credit if you do not attend the entire webinar, and we are not permitted to provide partial CEUs. Statements of credit will be posted within 30 business days after the evaluation closes in the professional development section of your FATA profile. For licensed practitioners, CEUs will be reported to CE Broker within the same time frame. This presentation is intended solely for educational purposes. The views, opinions, Information and content expressed in the presentation are those of the presenter and do not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or policies of the state of Florida, the Florida Department of Children and Families, FADA, or the Florida Behavioral Health Association. Attendees should note that sessions are recorded and published in various media. Our presenter today will be Cristina Nevarez. Cristina is the Director of Prevention and Education at Christie House, a nationally accredited children's advocacy center serving Miami-Dade County and supporting efforts nationwide. She is a dedicated and passionate leader with deep expertise in evidence-based, trauma-informed training focused on the prevention and response to all forms of childhood trauma. Fluent in both English and Spanish, Cristina brings over a decade of experience working with diverse communities. Her work centers on empowering adults to create safe, supportive environments that foster mental and emotional well-being. Through education and advocacy, she promotes self-empowerment, resilience, and emotional intelligence. Cristina is deeply committed to the safety and well-being of children. She strives to create spaces where lasting change is possible, helping young people reach their full potential in a safe and nurturing environment. And now I would like to turn it over to our presenter, Cristina Nevarez. Cristina, the floor is yours.
Wonderful, Robert. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being here. I see a full and very lively chat. Happy Halloween to all of you as well. I see a lot of excitement for today. And I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know we're all very busy. It's Friday, so happy Friday as well. And good morning. I'm coming to you live from Florida, and it is a chilly morning. Anything below 70, we consider winter. So we're really excited for the weather and just to learn today in a trauma-informed and evidence-based way. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. As I am about to share the presentation and the PowerPoint, I would love to hear where everyone's coming from. So if you would like to share your name, maybe the organization that you're part of and where you are in the world. I see Lakeland, Florida. Wonderful. I'm sure it's beautiful right now over in your side, Lisa. Thank you so much for being here. And as you're all typing, today it's about disaster relief and supporting families, so adults and children through hurricanes and other forms of trauma before, during, and after the storm. And as a lot of you know, we just experienced Melissa over in the Caribbean, and it really gets to show that sometimes we think there was like a period where really we didn't feel much happening, and sometimes people let their guards down during this time, and then Melissa comes, and it gets to show that we have experienced category 3 or more during the end of October and November. So we're definitely still in the season. And so I just want to say thank you for being here and learning how to self-regulate through this process. So I see here Nami, incredible, Tracy, Patricia from City of Orlando, Dr. Patricia Rada, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Thank you for being here. We have the police department, wonderful, and we'll touch on that in a moment too, that we do work side to side with the police department over at Christie House. Aaron with Flagger Open Arms Recovery Services out of Bunnell, Florida. Wonderful. Shireen from Broward County, welcome neighbor. I am in Broward as well. Donna with UF Health Jacksonville. So as you see, we have so many people, Lauren from Tampa, Brian from Port Charlotte, Florida. You're seeing that a lot of you are experts in your fields, and you're here for a purpose. And I really want you to connect with that. I want you to feel that this is a safe environment. And if at moments you want to take off the professional hat and just come here as a parent, as a family member, a wife, a husband, really allow yourself to be immersed in this training as we're learning on, as well as the trauma that comes hand in hand with disasters, right? So, with that said, today we're going to be identifying the emotional and behavioral impacts of hurricanes and really other disasters. And I'm going to be opening the floor for you to share your own personal experience with this and really how it affects children and adolescents, right? Applying the strategies that we are going to be learning today and supporting children and families before, during, and after hurricanes and hurricanes, and to increase the safety, the resilience, and how to cope. So viewing this as a way of the trigger comes in, right? The uncertainty comes in. Naturally, the sense of safety is in question. And so we're dealing with a complex, right, scenario where a lot of times we think that we're stable and then something comes in that is unexpected and it really gets to test how we feel and how safe we feel in our environment. So we will be talking about how to develop a family-centered, and I love this, family-centered preparedness on recovery plan that addresses both practical needs and emotional well-being in the aftermath of disaster. So we're going to really approach this in a wholesome way, and I'm really excited to be learning with you today. If anyone has heard about Christie House, please write it on the chat. We are a wonderful community and we are located in Miami-Dade County, but we work to eradicate and we're dedicated, truly dedicated to eradicate child abuse, child sex trafficking, and we work nationally on solutions and locally as well to heal child victims. Thanks to the virtual setting, we're able to reach people from India. We've had people from the UK, Switzerland. So it's always wonderful to know that we can connect in a virtual setting and create a long-lasting impact that way. We are the only children's advocacy center in Miami-Dade County. We work closely with a multidisciplinary team. Part of them is the police department, state attorney's office. So they are focused, the state attorney's office, on the legal, the medical. We work closely with with the child protective team that does examinations within our main office. So after 30 years, we were able to move in all of our multidisciplinary team to receive the services in one place, which is wonderful. And the social services needs are the prevention team. So I'm the director of prevention at Christie House, and we do have many trainings focused on the well-being and how to protect ourselves from any form of trauma. We are nationally recognized for our evidence base, and this is very important that we work closely with therapeutic experts in treating child trauma. So you're getting the best of the best, and that's something that I encourage everyone that as you're working with different organizations to make sure that their credentials are in place. We were one of the first child advocacy centers in the country to address issues on child sexual exploitation. At first, we were focused on girls, and we saw that there was a need to protect and serve the boys. So this is our first year also offering services for children that have been exposed or in danger of being exposed to trafficking. And all of our services are free of charge. We are very proud of that. We are a nonprofit, so thanks to our donors, we are able to do that. One of our part of our multidisciplinary team is also the Department of Children and Families. So again, we do provide expertise in our services. If you ever come through a place that you're not sure if a case is abuse, not abuse, if it's traumatic, call us. This is our number, and we can guide you through the process. So we are very hands-on when it comes to supporting the families in our community. And I see Athena with Guardian Ad Litem. We actually, Guardian Ad Litem is part of a multidisciplinary team. So it's so good to see you here. Thank you so much for being here. Wonderful. So let's talk about hurricanes and really all forms of the disasters that we've experienced. Please write it on the chat. What comes up, right? Emotionally, mentally, when you hear just the word disaster, right? Natural disaster. What comes up when you hear that term? So write it on the chat. Feel free to use either a word or a sentence. What connects to you when you hear that? I hear, let me see here, fear, definitely, right? Deep-rooted fears, tragedy. And I'm sure that you experienced as you saw Jamaica and all the fear that came the before and then during and now the after effect, right? Loss, yes, right? So grieve is part of this process too. Nausea, so your body reacting, right, to that fear and that tragedy, heart racing, trauma, especially for Hurricane Helen. Yes, right. And some of you might have experienced different hurricanes in a different way. I know for me, Hurricane George was very traumatic. I was in Puerto Rico during that time, and the hurricane itself broke our window and came inside of our apartment. So it all of you might experience hurricane in a different way. That's why it's so unique that you're here, right? That you're not just hearing it from someone, but that you're working through your own unique experience. Well, I have a house afterwards, so a sense of safety, your protection, right? I think about the car. When we're in the car, we feel like nothing's going to touch us, and out of nowhere, if you get in a car accident, right, it's like your safety is shattered, and how traumatic that is. Loss, destruction, anxiety, trauma, the unknown, uncertainty, worried for others, right? Their physical and mental well-being, right? And that goes hand in hand with the aftermath. Sadness, safety, yes. Change, right? What's going to come of this? How is my life going to change? How is it going to change within my environment, my city, right? So a lot of you panic, unknown to come, yes, confusion, right? Where to find resources. So we're going to be actually giving you all the resources today. You get negative, loss, panic, potential fatality, trauma, concern. So Dr. Patricia Rita saying Hurricane Charlie left a tree on our house, right? And so that in itself, not only the tree, but the hurricane in itself and how complex it can be. Shock. Irma was the one that was awful for me. Thank you, Ali, for sharing. And Irma was definitely disastrous. And then Erin is saying, positive way of seeing this is the community, the assistance, and the gratitude. So how we all come together, and that's something that I love that you're bringing that in because we do want to feel resiliency through all of this, right? Ashley, chaos, right? Oh wow, Elizabeth, you were in Puerto Rico for Hurricane George, and it felt the end of the world. Yes, it did, right? It really did. Thank you for being here. I was in elementary school in South Florida during Andrew. So the reason I love to ask is because you don't feel alone. You're not alone in this. You're not being hypersensitive to this. This is very serious. It's very traumatic, and there needs to be a space for it as we're building it now. So let's talk about what is trauma. And I know this word kind of gets tossed around a lot on social media, and it's very important that not only do we hear the term from an expert, but from a resource that's evidence-based. And um, the resources that we use, we'll be sharing at the end of the training too. So trauma is a physical and emotional response to an event that threatens the life and the physical integrity of the child or someone critical and important to the child or an adult as well, right? So all of you here. So it's a response to an event. A lot of times we think that trauma is the event in itself, but it's how you react to the event where it becomes right? Threatening and overwhelming to the way that you cope, a child copes, and the ability to do so. And sometimes we learn how to cope through anxiety. I'm not sure your upbringing, but that's something that you can start reflecting that the traumatic event in itself, it affects the ability to trust. So now we're going down in layers. The ability to trust. Are you saying that when I go through that traumatic event, the sense of safety, personal safety, and imagine if that sense of safety and trust is thrown out the window. You're left, right, with feeling vulnerable and feeling exposed. And it, of course, affects the effectiveness on how to navigate just life changes as a whole and think about how this can be long lasting effects. So maybe you've experienced a hurricane in the 90s And we're here over in 2025, and you're still having a reaction to something that can affect that sense of safety and trust. And there's three different core types of trauma. We have acute. Acute would be considered one event that happens, such as hurricane. And if you want to even put more examples of one event that happens that is traumatic. So if you want to, again, write it on the chat, what can other forms of acute trauma be? We have the chronic. So chronic is a compilation of different traumatic events that happens throughout time. So let's say that you experience, you are exposed to domestic violence, and then you go to school and you're exposed to bullying. And then you've experienced a hurricane on top of that. So seeing that chronic, right, it's a compilation of different traumatic events, and complex is similar to chronic, but it's done by a caregiver. So imagine complex is that sense of safety. It's hindered, right? It's affected. And remembering that the sense of safety and protectiveness goes hand in hand with that complex trauma too. Am I safe in this world? The thing that's supposed to protect me is not doing their job. Am I safe? And I have here Robin saying car accident is definitely part of acute. Athena saying fire, death of a loved one, or a severe accident. Yes, most definitely. Acts of violence, medical emergency, witnessing violence or injury, sudden loss, a job. So I'm glad that you're bringing that in, right? A loved one. And how are we coping with this, right? What's our reaction to trauma? And that's why we're here. And so I want to ask this question to you, and this is, I love activities. This is something that we implement a lot in our trainings, right? We learn through experience. A lot of times we can tune out when we hear a voice after a certain amount of time, but writing in the chat during the most impactful events of a hurricane or a disaster, a natural disaster, I felt stressed because, anxious because, and unable to cope because. So answering that in the chat, stress, anxious, and unable to cope because, and writing that on the chat. So Robin, you're saying, is complex trauma another term for betrayal trauma? It's interesting that you're saying betrayal trauma, and I'm sure there's different terms, right, for them. And how I'm seeing this with betrayal is, that's one way to look at it, is that the person that's supposed, a place that's supposed to protect a child, and that's our responsibility, is to not only protect ourselves, but protect the most vulnerable. And betrayal can be part of that, right? When you're supposed to feel that sense of protectiveness, and it's betrayed or it's not done so. Thank you, Robin, for asking. So Ashley saying stress, anxious, and unable to cope because I have no control over the situation. So now we're getting deeper into this, right? A sense of control. And that can be a way that we've learned how to cope is through control, right? And I'm sure possibly that you start seeing this in different areas in your life. Stress, out of control, anxious, the same for all, and able to prepare but not control. Yes, so even that sense of preparedness is still triggers that stress and anxiety because you have no control over it. You're welcome, Robin. I was afraid that our house would be destroyed and we would be seriously injured or killed. Imagine. So the sense, the seriousness of your life being threatened. It's similar to experiencing someone, right, a shooting in front of you. That sense of I might die, I might be killed. That's the same amount of stress and trauma that we can experience with a natural disaster. Stress, feeling responsible for the safety of those with me, my family. So not only on top of yours, it's also the sense of your responsibility to take care of your family. Thank you for sharing, Brian. Louise, stressed because of the unknown, anxious for the next steps, unable to cope because of lack of control. So a lot of you are connecting with that. I felt anxious because of the overwhelming news coverage, and I try to cope with by praying. And I love how you implement prayer in order to, right, soothe yourself and know that you're okay. But what you're experiencing and talking about is secondary trauma. And right now, we're so connected with the media that we're constantly experiencing secondary trauma, which is traumatic, by the way. You experience it in your body, and it's a constant reminder of unsafety. So before you might have just experienced it if it happened in your place, but now you're experiencing someone else's, and that builds up to it. Claire, not knowing, stress, not knowing how bad it would be, anxious, not sure my loved ones and I are completely prepared and unable to cope in lack of waiting. So a lot of you are sharing, and thank you so much. I'm reading through them, and it's just so interesting, right? That we're all so distinct and different because we're all unique, yet we experience, right, similar emotions when it comes to trauma. And that's the connection that we can build with each other and protectiveness that can come from that. So with Hurricane Irma, a lot of you shared, right? This is something that another exercise and questions to ask, right? The most impactful events, stress, fear, and anxiety with this hurricane. And here put hurricane blank or natural disaster blank. In this situation, how do you think you would have felt as a child? What would you have made you feel, what would have made you feel safe as a child? What would have made you feel safe as an adult? And what remains the same for you as a child, as an adult? So great questions, and you can answer them just one or answer all of them, but write it in the chat. Which one even stands out to you that you're like, ooh, interesting. What is the same as a child as it is now? Right? What made you feel safe? So reflecting on that sometimes we think that anxiousness, right? Someone responding with anxiousness kind of gives the incentive that we care, but it might make the situation worse, right? So I'm reading here, praying. As a child, feel very scared. The family support is important. As a child, fear. When I went through my first hurricane, I was in second grade. So imagine, Natalie, how young you were. My mom made a game and it felt safe with all the wind blowing. Thank you for sharing. And this is the beauty of all of you sharing some tools, is that we can learn from each other. Playing games, right? Helps soothe a child. So Jessica, you're saying that the panicking from your parents made it worse, right? The stress, more worried as a child. And some of you, let me see here, Ashley, what remains the same for me as a child as an adult, the support and protection of my family. And how important it is that we feel the sense of belonging, that we belong in a quote unquote tribe, that we support and take care of each other. And sadly, right, isolation can be a reaction to the trauma. I'll take care of myself. I can't depend on anyone else. It's that sense of panic that you cannot rely on other people. And of course, it makes it worse because then you're disconnected and we work better as a team, right? Louise, as a child, I would feel very scared and I would like to see how my parents responded. Important now as a parent to model how to stay calm for my children. Yes. And we're going to get into this. The preparedness is not just the flashlights. And of course, we have to have also physical things that in case we're not able to leave our house, we have everything in place prior to the hurricane, prior to the natural disaster. But also, which you're all mentioning, are we taking care of ourselves on a daily basis during January, February, March, April, May, June, July? Are we taking care of ourselves to help how to naturally regulate our emotions so that when we are exposed to change, so something traumatic, we're better equipped in how to be calm and how to navigate it? So you're all really hitting on that, right? That it's so important to remain calm. Thank you all for sharing. And I'm reading here, Michelle's feedback, Marianne. Thank you all for sharing. Wonderful. And I would encourage everyone to look at the chat because so much is happening. And I want to thank you all for sharing your own personal experience when it comes to this. So let's think about what you shared, the impact that this had for you as a child and for young children in general. So we're thinking, right, elementary school, even younger. So the common emotional reaction of children exposed to a hurricane can include feeling helpless, uncertainty, that there's a continued danger. So general fear and extend beyond a traumatic event. So we call these ACEs. I'm not sure if you are all familiarized with them. Adverse childhood experiences that happen, natural disasters being one of them, your environment, right? Being traumatic, something happening, danger coming to your life. Another adverse childhood experience can be experiencing domestic violence, witnessing also domestic violence, maybe a parent or someone you love is incarcerated, the loss of a parent or someone close to the child, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, right? Neglect. So all these things that happen have, and science has proven and study has proven that it has a long-lasting effect where it not only affects your cognitive, right, development, so how your brain absorbs information, the safety that you feel in the world, right? Your social skills are inhibited, right, and are affected, the way you connect with others, right? Um, Also physical, so maybe some your cardiovascular, it affects your cardiovascular, your lungs, and all of this, it can be due to smoking and drinking in order to cope from these traumatic events. And it can lead to early death. And that's what we want to avoid. We want to be preventative here. So, how do we approach these ACEs as adults and care for the children with intervention? So, it might be also fueling that if this is happening now for a young child experiencing this, can this happen and continue to happen? Disruptive behavior. So children naturally become very reactive to circumstances, irritability, anger, temper tantrums. And usually, when a child is acting this way, what do we usually do, right? We tend to be reactive back or judgmental, or we can put down a child and threaten them. But in reality, if we're trauma informed, we learn that acting and reacting in that way, like you're saying, my parent being more stressed caused me more stress. So, how are we caring for the children when they're experiencing this? And of course, this myths and stories that we tell the children, it can also cause additional trauma. I know for me, growing up, chupacabra was a was the thing in folklore, and I was very scared of nature. And so realizing that as a child, we think it's funny, but it can increase their sense of safety and the inability to cope, right? So they may become clingy, independent, right? They may be in the another extreme avoidant, avoiding situations, avoiding people, and exhibiting aggressive behaviors. And this is very important that we are looking at this from a sense of realizing that physical symptoms can also be part of this. And I wonder for you, if you want to write it on the chat, what physical symptoms did you experience as a child through trauma? Did you get stomach aches? Did you get headaches? Losing appetite, nightmares, sleep problems? So, how did you as a child, all of the above, actually saying, all of the above? So increased concern of safety and family members. So the child is not only scared for their own safety, now they're scared for their families, for the friends. Luis, you're saying stomach aches, sleeping issues, depressed motivation, or decreased motivation and energy. So we can all agree that this affects you not only mentally, emotionally, but also physically. And it's important that we also realize that school-based programs will decrease school performance. So there's a training that we do on children the core curriculum on children and traumatic stress, right? That the way that they perform in school might be affected, and disassociating, an ability to concentrate, an ability to motivation. And a lot of times, again, we think that by pushing them or forcing them to act in a different way, realizing that that might make things worse, right? Alice, you're saying biting fingernails, intense anxiety, headaches as a child. You see, the consent stress has now caused medical issues. So, can we agree that it is important that we're learning? And through education, we can prevent, right? Education is the number one form of prevention for it to not escalate. And Jessica, you're saying sleeping issues, right? Dependent on friends to talk about the problems in order to not face them alone. So Ashley, you're saying that you became more dependent on others, right? For that sense of safety. Very interesting. Thank you all for sharing. So let's move on to adolescence. And this is where we can maybe start seeing a little bit more of these emotions, right? Being more overt, right? More intense. And it may differ from younger children and how do they respond to hurricanes and disasters, right? And some believe that they will not live long after this, and they might experience withdrawn, being angry, irritable in a more intense way. They might start practicing risky behaviors. So, having conflict with authority, right? Pushing those limits. And that's a reactive nature that happens after experiencing something like anything connected to natural disasters. So, engaging in self-destructive ways and in accident-prone behavior. And this is where we start seeing, right, possibly coping with drugs, with alcohol, as well. So being mindful that they're not just acting out, and usually that's the term what we use, right? Children are just acting out. They're 13. It's normal, right? A child in their natural state is curious, is open, is fun, is energetic. So anytime that we see the contrary, it's not normal. And it's important to not normalize it. And of course, hormones have a lot to do with this, right? The puberty and going through all those changes, it's hand in hand with this. But it's important that we educate the children on how to cope with these changes, right? So these are the ACEs studies and Kaiser Permanente. And if you have not seen it, there's a TED Talk. Dr. Nadine, she spoke on these the ACEs and the impact. And the reference that she used is that if there's a well and people are drinking from a well and all of them are sick, right? Naturally, a doctor wants to give them medicine for the sickness, the stomach issues that they're experiencing. But the study that they did is that instead of taking care of the symptoms, they asked themselves, what's in this water? What's in the well? And from that, they were able to realize that a lot of these adverse childhood experiences, such as impact of natural disaster, can have a long impact in a child's development and as an adult. So again, if you have not seen that video, it's very informative, and I encourage everyone to see it. So if you're taking anything from this training, right, please know that this is one of the most crucial parts of this training is the essential elements of a trauma-informed care in the organization you're part of, within your family unit. And it's how are we partnering with youth and families? How are we collaborating and working together? Sadly, a lot of times we isolate and we try to figure it all out ourselves, but we want to maximize the physical and psychological safety through this model. We want to identify trauma-related needs, right? What does this child need versus, oh, they're just acting out. What are their needs? What is this adult's needs? And a lot of times we want to fix. We want to sometimes just fix the problem. And in a lot of trainings that we've taken at Christie House, it says, how can I be with the person in the pain without trying to fix them? Ask them what their needs are, and in hand working together to get out. So enhancing in that is the well-being and the resiliency of a child and an adult as well, of course, in the family unit. So thinking about each other as we're in the same team, right? It's not me versus you, and the problem is me with you, right? With you against the problem. Um, Natalie, you're saying there's no such thing as a bad child. They're a child learning how to make good decisions and learning boundaries. Exactly, right? Ashley, dependent on friends. Okay, this is from the last one. Thank you so much, Natalie, for that. And that's the word. If you're taking one word from this training, is resiliency of people working in a system, right? Communicating, essential communication to work, right? Healthy coping mechanisms and healthy ways of communicating. And there's that can be a whole other training, right? For the sake of time, we're going to keep it concise, but learning all these essential elements so that you can implement them before the tragedy happens, right? Wonderful. So to increase your family's sense of safety, there's things that you can do in when it comes to readiness. And this is one of my favorite parts, the before, the prevention part of this, right? It's important that children are stronger than we believe, right? And of course, there's things that we don't have to dump on them, but we can give children factual information, not myths, not folklores. A lot of times we want to get really creative and imaginative, but saying the truth about hurricanes in an age appropriate term, right? And how maybe they're formed, under making them understand that it's not just a monster coming in, that these things happen, right? It's part of nature. And it's very, actually, very fascinating when you start realizing how the weather works and what affects the weather and helping them participate. So you're here, and Brian, I see you saying making it a game, right? To offset with paces. And I love, Brian, that you're saying pace it positive, right? And preventative measures that we're taking to be inclusive with our children. Reassure them with touch and attention. And I can a lot of you, I see that you're experts and you're therapists, right? We implement a lot of art and activating the senses, the sense of hear, the sense of hear, eyesight, touch, smell, taste. So how can we implement these activities to help them be part of something? They want to be included. And I'm sure a lot of you know when you come into your house, if you're a parent, they're like, Mom, I want to do everything with you. Dad, I want to do it. They want to be part of your life. And are we disconnected from our children and planning for what's important for them? Pets are very important for children, right? A lot of people get them tattooed. That's how important they are, right? And keep their carriers or crate close by, identifying pet-friendly shelters possibly, and that's something that during Irma, a lot of people here in Florida, they were calling shelters. And why can't we just have a list of shelters close to us? Maybe hotels that are pet friendly. Having these lists saved in your drive, maybe you can even name it a safety drive or a safety folder for when hurricanes come, and having all these forms already there. So this is something that you can print out. You can definitely take a picture of it. You can write it down as we're showing you right now. But do you have these cell phones saved in pen and paper? Because we don't know if the lights are going to go down. We don't know if everything's going to be shut down. Do I know my family members and my support system's phone number? What is my emergency contact? What's my doctor's information? Nearest hospital, right? A lot of times I'm driving around and I'm like, oh, I didn't see that hospital. I wonder what it is. But sometimes I don't even research what the hospital and urgent care are. And so it's important that we know what these nearest shelters are already. Here's the Red Cross national numbers, and that's something that you can save as well. There's some websites here, and then we're going to share more later. Christie House, again, having our number saved in your phone or in a notepad. DCF, the abuse hotline, human trafficking hotline, all these preventative measures for abuse prevention, because you never know how people act and react also after a hurricane. Um, Brian, you're saying due to my childhood experiences, I now volunteer for critical incident stress management. Wow, to help keep first responders going after severe incidents. So you're part of it. And that's what we're trying to cultivate. It's building a community of resiliency and preventative measures, being part of it. Natalie, you're saying that they do brainstormings in schools. They can brainstorm what needs to be done to be safe. Yes, right? That's incredible that they implement that in schools. Just inform and try to create a safe place. Yes. Do you have a safe place in your home, right? Have you created and nurtured it? And these are some of the hurricane supplies lists that you can have. I call this a survival kit. Personally, I have water already with filter water and jugs, having dry food, having a radio, and I actually got one that you can crank and it has a flashlight in it. Do you have extra fuel in your garage? Do you have a first aid kit? Do you have extra batteries, can openers, food that's canned already? Now, or even after hurricane season, having your supply that no matter what happens, I'm not running last minute to get toilet paper. We saw that happening a lot. It's like toilet paper is gone, and what are we gonna do? But you already have it so that you're not running around last minute and creating more anxiety in your life, right? Danielle, you're saying getting a map in case there's no phones or internet for extended periods of times. Yes, bring those back, right? And thank you, Farah, and yes, for sharing the presentation and the PowerPoint. Thank you. So that way you can save these things and have them in your folder, right? For that you can be in preparedness mode and readiness mode. This is something that we see a lot, but do you already have plywood possibly stored? And that's something that happens a lot. People are running around, right, to cover their windows. Can you invest in hurricane-proof windows? And I know it's an investment, right? But that can be part of keeping that calm prior to an event like this. Am I in a flooding zone, right? How can I protect my electronics? Is everything in my house right now up? So a lot of times we have everything on the floor. On a day to day, a hurricane comes and we're like, everything's destroyed. Waterproof coverings if anything happens. Um, and of course, having everything in your lawn, even be thinking already right now as after the training, what in my home is hazards? And how can I prevent or maybe modify things so that not everything is flying around? Um, in Broward County, and maybe some of you that are in Broward, recently we just had a storm that came out of nowhere and everything, all the trash cans were everywhere. And so we have some of our neighbors that didn't close uh, places right in their front lawn where they're enclosing the trash bins so that way they're not moving around, flying around. That can be a project that you can do for your home. And these are more the things that we're talking about, right? Making sure that we're not leaving everything everywhere, right? Everything everywhere because maybe, you know, you don't have the time to put the things away, but always having things organized. Even if you have a storage unit, is it organized? Is it elevated? Um, Fans that are battery, right? That operate with battery, waterproof bag. I personally have one and I love that thing because when it rains, I already put everything in it and I don't have to worry about everything getting wet, right? So they say 1 gallon per person for 3 to 7 days. And this is something that you can, if you have a family, and preparing for that as well. So what can you do to prepare? And I do want to open it up for all of you to share what are some of the things that you've already done um, that to prepare to help you prepare. Do you have like a survival kit and a supply already in order? What are some things that you can do to become more ready? So even with the things that we're sharing, what are some activities that you can start doing right now to help you? And Robin is saying with the suggestion of preparing a disaster kit as recommended by ready.gov, that is ready year round. a possible way to reduce stress and anxiety for children, or could it aggravate in the anxiety? And the answer is it can help them feel part of, in a sense of safety, because, oh, mom and dad are ready. I'm good. I don't have anything to worry. They're already ahead of the game. Tamara, you're saying you have a solid charger for my phone. I love that. And I'm actually gonna get that. I love that. It's, you see that we help each other. Generator at family's house, supply water. Yes, do you have a generator? I personally have one. Thanks to my fiance. I'm not gonna take any credit for that. But we have a generator in case the lights go off, and go out. Alice, you're saying you have MRE meals 24/7 sold at places like Ollie's. They even heat in pouches with just a tiny bit of water. Yes, and there's some that you can pull a string and it heats up already, which is wonderful. Natalie, you're saying you wrap the freezer to keep meat cold longer. How smart is that? Because that's the first thing that we think about. My fridge, um, is out. And how am I going to keep everything cold? And you're saying you can wrap it. How incredible is that? I have an emergency bin in my garage filled with sandbags. Wow. First aid kits, battery operating things, also a generator. Wonderful, Erica. Candles, flashlights, and I do encourage, I always had candles too. Flashlight, right, to reduce the risk of maybe something catching on fire. So risk reduction, if you're thinking in that way. Uh, Robin, you're saying water supply all year long in case of a boiling water orders, in case of boil water orders, no matter what time of the year. Yes, maybe the water becomes undrinkable. I love this. I'm learning so much from you all, so thank you for sharing. Full bathtub of water, yes, to shower. Solar generator, can you invest in it? So instead of ordering over Uber Eats every other day, you can save up some money for a solar generator. I have tote bags full of supplies, waterproof totes. I love this. So you're already putting this in place, and this is so essential for us to feel that sense of safety. Thank you all. Ah, Dr. Patricia, you're saying fire waterproof safe for it documents. Yes, yes. And is it elevated, right? And again, can you invest in it? And a lot of you are mentioning this. You can also have a family preparedness wallet card in case of an emergency. What is our meeting place? So decide as a family, in case anything happens, disastrous happens to the house, to our environment, where are we going to meet, right? What place are we going to meet at? And again, there's a lot of safety organizations that open it up in case of an emergency. What are those around you? And again, it's just having a backpack ready in case of anything. Um, have an exit plan if things go bad. Yes. Fill ster sterilized washing machines with clean water. Yes, I actually have never heard of that, and that's wonderful. The washing machines, can we fill those up as well? You're also smart and so on top of it. So I'm just really grateful to be hearing all of your expertise around this. And uh, children with special needs may face unique challenges, as we know, specialized equipment, difficulty with communicating, even mobility impairment. So how are we teaching our children with special needs, right? And how are we have everything in order in case of an emergency? So families need to ensure that disaster plannings include discussion with the child's healthcare provider prior to something happening. If an emergency happens, what should I have in order? What medicine should I have in order? Should I be overstacking? So like even saving some of this medicine in one of my cabinets in case of an emergency. Especially, we're talking about special needs here, but I'm thinking about if a child has asthma, do we have extra supply stored? Um, so considering, right, that children with special needs do have different needs, and are we preparing? And Tracy, you're saying actually store ice in the washer. Oh, I love that. Yes, because it keeps the coolness of it all. Wow. Usually a place ready to relocate and secure the house before leaving. Yes, and something as small, who are my neighbors? Have I gotten time to get to know them? Do I trust them? Right? I have a neighbor on my left side that I trust her with my life. We're always supporting each other, and I've developed that relationship throughout the year. So realizing who are my neighbors, where can I go to for a safe haven, right? And in a lot of this we've mentioned, right? But medical supplies, medications, power supplies, food, transformations, transportation in place. Something as, and this might sound a little silly, but we also have paddle boards. In case we can't drive out, at least we can swim out if it needs to happen. And I actually have seen that many times, people in kayaks transporting from side to side after a disaster or after a flood. So thinking about different innovative ways, right, to prepare. Brian is saying most pharmacies will give you an extra order in times of emergency as long as it is not addictive. Yes, Brian. So thank you for that. And just to let everyone know, we will be taking a break in 4 minutes. So at 11 o'clock Eastern time for 5 minutes. So just know that's coming. And then we'll continue on with the training. So we can all agree that disasters are difficult experiences for all families, but can be specifically difficult for families whose children have special healthcare needs. So offering suggestions as to how families might get started or which actions are a priority for them to take on first. So visiting this website, helping children cope and adjust after a disaster. And again, it will share with you the PowerPoint. Go to that website, right? Have that handy, maybe have it saved in your favorites, and again, creating a store, a folder or a specific storage in your computer for emergencies. And of course, we have to prepare, right? Do I have to prepare for tornadoes, right? And of course, the answer is yes. This is another thing that happens, and it catches a lot of people by surprise. We've had even tornadoes in Florida. I don't know if you know that, but we get tornadoes here too. And listening to the radio, listening to the media, listening to accredited media, of course, right? And ones that we can trust for warnings to stay safe. Um, I have the inclination of pausing now before going into response. Do you all feel good with having a pause now for 5 minutes, or do you want to wait till 3 more minutes for 11 o'clock? Yes to now? Okay. A flood of yes and good. Okay, capital yes. Awesome. So let's take a break now. Let's come back around 11:02, 11:03. That way you can have enough time to get water, coffee, go to the bathroom. Now it's 10:58, so let's just say 11:04. Does that sound good for everyone? Okay, I see a lot of yes, 11:04. Wonderful. So see everyone soon, and again, take care of yourself. Go outside, maybe get some fresh air as well as you're taking your break, and I'll see everyone soon. Thank you all. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that little break as much as I did. It's such a beautiful day. So I'm very grateful to have all of you today and to be supporting each other through this training. I just want to do a little check-in. How are you feeling? How are you feeling with this information? Is there anything else that we can do to support you throughout this process? Please write it on the chat, just how you're feeling and doing a little self check-in. Good to go. Wonderful. Wonderful. Great information and that you're doing great. Clear, good, very good. Wonderful. Wonderful. And I just want to say again, thank you to FADAA for having me and really getting to connect with this community. I always find it wonderful that we're all doing different work, but that we have similarities in a lot of ways. So Brian, that you love today. Laura, excellent. Got my listening ears on. Good. Grateful. This is really going all is well. Wonderful. And I hope that you have wonderful, really fun plans for today for during Halloween as well. I want to dress like Toad from Mario Kart. He's my favorite character, so I'm excited to celebrate today too. Okay, wonderful. So let's go ahead and continue. So responding, right, and these are the resources that we're going to be giving you today. There's different organizations that are built around providing continuous emergency and weather broadcasts from local stations. NOAA is a great one. Really checking your local listenings. A lot of times, and personally, I've been through this too, that I don't know where to get my resources from, right? So it's important that we know that there are organizations that are built for times like these. And, the radio, of course, but making sure that you have everything you need in place to listen to what you need, especially if you're in the middle of a disaster. These are some ways, maybe you've listened to some of these, or some might be new to you, but really staying indoor. And I've seen this a lot of times, unfortunately, that people go outside as the hurricane is coming in, right? You're wanting to relocate, you wanted to go to a different house just to take care of someone. But it's really important that we're in a place, we stay indoor, especially with floods, and that usually is what threatens the most a home. So turning everything off, the main breaker, and this is something that some of maybe you didn't even think of this. Oh, my breaker, let me turn it off, right? Do not go outside in the eye of the storm. As we know, this is the most dangerous part of the hurricane. It can be the before and then the after of that eye. Of course, losing power, turning major appliances off, such as your AC, your fridge, right? Keeping animals in their carrier. And this is something for you to all have, not only a crate, but a carrier for your cats, for your dogs, for your birds, right? Getting in the bathtub or pulling a mattress over the bathtub is a great way to create that protection. Of course, that the home begins to come apart, and that's the last resort. But as we just heard, Melissa was a category 5, and that's usually what happens. And so, do you have an extra mattress or a mattress that it's easily accessible to go on top of your bathtub? And of course, keeping children informed in an age-appropriate way. What's happening? What are some signs? What is their responsibility if anything goes? And of course, giving them a responsibility that is doable. Possibly you can practice it before, and we're going to go over some activities that you can do with them. We did mention flashlights, not candles, right? We don't want to damage the house in any way. And in case there's a broken gas line, right? Thinking about even that in itself. Oh, the gas line. So minimizing fires, of course, during this time. Um, so watching for dangerous debris, broken glass, nails, right? Staying inside in that way, even in the aftermath, and we're going to go over this. Sometimes, even after the last storm we had in Florida, a lot of people were walking on the beach and there was nails that people were stepping on, broken glass and nails. So realizing that that can happen and just to be extra mindful. Of course, shielding children from viewing severe injuries and damages as possible. So keeping some separation in that way, and staying together in one in one room, right? So not separating, unless it's in one of those places that you do get separated, and remaining calm, like we've mentioned. Brian, you're saying as a child, we built a fort in the bedroom, turned the bed into a safe space. Look at that and the innovation behind that. And as a child, even through the traumatic event and everything, that can feel like you're part of an activity. It can increase a sense of belonging and a sense of, oh, I do have control over something, right? So I want all of you, and Brian, you already started this trend, so thank you, to write 3 to 5 activities to engage your children in hurricane preparation, um, and offer suggestions, as well as to mitigate possible impacts of trauma. So thinking not only about the physical aspect of this, but also the emotional. So please write it on the chat. What are 3 to 5 activities to engage your children in hurricane preparation? Angela, packing an emergency bag. Yes. And remember, what are your child's needs? Stuffed animals. Thank you, Tamara, right? And that helps the child emotionally regulate. Uh, Picking games to play. So Claire, if you want to just share, what are some of those games that you can do? Packing their favorite items, right? What helps them self-regulate? And I've seen a lot of adults with stuffed animals still as an adult. So is that something that you would also want in your backpack? They can pick with toys they want to hold closer. Take him with us to pick out non-perishable snacks he likes and escape powers his loss. A lot of children are picky eaters. Yeah, Justin, thank you for that one. Angela picking up items in the yard to become that can become projectile. Yes, right. And seeing, okay, what could fly away. Um, I'm just looking that to my side, maybe you're a gardener and you have a lot of different pots around your yard. Maybe you can just have one place where they are and then have something that you can cover them with in case of an emergency. Board games, Monopoly. Yes, who doesn't love Monopoly, right? And isn't that based on real life, right? Taxes, and children even get a little anxious with that. Why are there taxes? It's taking away my money, right? um, Letting the kids help prepare so they feel safe. Yes. Make hurricane kits like scavenger hunt or pike their needs and favorite items. Yes, I love that. We're playing scavenger hunt. Pick 5 of your favorite items that help you feel safe, right? And do it in that way. Um, Helping with the animals. Yes. Having them prepare the animal food in bags. I personally have that. I have a whole shelf with already my animals' bags and like prepared food. So you can definitely do that. Go shopping together instead of leaving them at home. Come with me, right? And let's shop together. Let's make the list together. You make your own list, I'll make my own list, and then we'll consolidate them. Coloring books, right? Even for adults, that's great for regulating your nervous system. Holding flashlights, camping before the storm. Definitely, I love that idea. Let's camp first and see how we can prepare with minimal things, right? I typically have my little ones help with cleaning and preparing their safe spaces. I love that. Cleaning underneath the bed, right? That can definitely be part of that. Picking out our dog's favorite toys and packing dog foods, card games. Do you have cards? By the way, Amazon has great deals. I just ordered card games for my household. Hide and seek games that do not need items or only need the items needed for emergency prep. Thank you, Claire. They can definitely pick the snacks, help make a list of food items needed and treats, right? They want. So any food, even if it's you consider it unhealthy, but what do they need, right, to feel safe? Uh, Dr. Patricia, you're saying my children are older but still anxious. We bought Lego kits for the last hurricane. They also picked out snacks and brought some of their own favorites. My younger daughter puts herself in a charge of the bird. Oh, so she's in charge of the bird feeder. I love that. And that's something that can be out in your yard and making sure that you know that it's there, even if it needs to come inside. Help to think about what to bring in case of going to a shelter. Yes. Favorite blankets and pillow. Listen, that goes such a long way. Picking books to read or games that you can play during the storm. Help prepare menus. What needs to be eaten now during and post hurricane. I love that. Even if you're seeing a hurricane is coming, okay, let's prepare food now. What food needs to be eaten, and such a great advice in that. Safe space, including pillows, blankets, and snacks, puzzles. I love puzzles, and I love that you said that. Coloring supplies, wide variety of things to keep their minds off of the event and more focus on the family togetherness. Yes, right. Scrabble is a great way because you really have to think on that one. Practice an evacuation by racing. Whoever can pack their bags and get to the designated location first. Yes. Love that. Before you have 8 minutes to get everything, and so that way they have self-awareness and environmental awareness of where everything is, right? Not only saying, "Mommy, Daddy, what's everything?" They know. If they live with elderly or grandparents, also involved in and helping to prepare. Yes. Pick stories to read with flashlight. Amazon has also small battery operating lanterns. We have one in each room. I love that. I love lanterns too. It brings back memory. I'm here just reading all of you. Safe tip, place milk crate under your bed to help hold it up when you're under it if something falls on it and tornado or alley idea. Yes. Wow, milk crates. I never thought of that. Wow. Map our evacuation route on a real map? Yes. So where are we going if in a case of an emergency? Make lists of friends, family, neighbors we need to check on. Practice. Yes, your own paper, toilet paper rolls, great for many things like paper towels. Yes, right? So I love going to Costco and stacking my pantry with paper towel and toilet paper. That's just the thing that I do. So that's something that you might be doing. Go to Costco and maybe getting some of the bigger items there. Thank you all. So you've mentioned a lot of these, right? Tic-tac-toe, who doesn't love that? Marbles, card, dominoes. There's so many different games that you can have. I have a designated game area in my home. Crossword puzzles. Do you have some of those magazines? And if not, can you order them? So again, it's a lot of the things that you can use on your day-to-day to create that connectiveness and also integrate them in a sense of emergency. You said a lot of these, so I don't want to reiterate so much of these with the snacks. But again, age-appropriate ways to increase a sense of control. And a lot of you have mentioned this. Do your best to stay calm and confident. Confidence, I love that self-esteem comes from esteemable acts. So what acts are you doing on your day-to-day that you're building trust within your household and trust within yourself, right? And let's now go over the third aspect of this is the recovery part. Um, Listen, I believe we can all agree that we are the role models of our children. They not only learn through what we say, they learn more on the way that we act. They're like sponges, right? How do we handle stressful situation? And if you're someone that struggles a lot with anxiety and nervousness. And that's something that you can even be aware of, right? Do I touch my hair a lot when I'm nervous? Do I touch my face a lot when I'm nervous? What do I do with my hands? I'm someone that when I'm a little nervous, I tend to play with my rings. And that's something that in Amazon, they have a ring where it's like a pressure point ring, and I can play with it, and it brings me back to the present moment. So work with the way that you naturally operate to self-regulate. It's very important, and I think we all agree that we're very exposed to media. So practicing now, right, balanced with that. When is it appropriate? When is it not appropriate? Where am I overdoing it? Because again, secondary stress can add a lot of stressors within your family, in your home. Um, of course, monitoring adult conversation, and this is something that it's all of our responsibility. How much information are we giving our children? Sometimes we think that they're mini adults, but they're not. They're children, right? And reassuring them constantly that they're safe. Who are their trusted adults? Who are their trusted friends? Asking these questions in a case of any form of emergency, even if it's abuse, who are the people that you go to for care? And of course, if anything gets lost, children dysregulate a lot with that, making sure that you have everything that they need on a regular basis to feel calm. Alice, you're saying after Hurricane Rita and Katrina, my work in the FEMA parks, uh, or in the FEMA parks got me entry by always having toilet paper rolls and bottles of water at the door with a friendly smile. How beautiful. I just love organizations and how much they care for us, right, Alice? Thank you for sharing that. Some professional needs to be out of the home to care for others due to work obligation. So how is that a factor for children, as you mentioned, loss in a previous slide? Yes. So some professionals need to be out of the home to care for others due to work obligation. So that is something that is a conversation to be had. Children, if you see this, and we see this in different kinds of abuse, right? There's different terms for different things when we're describing adults versus when we're describing children. For example, when we talk about, and I'm just going to name this because it's part of our organization, sexual abuse, right? Children are not perpetrators. For example, they struggle with problematic sexual behavior, things of that nature, right? So when we're caring for children, realizing that they see life very differently. So as a professional, as an adult, you have the cognitive ability to say, I have work, and due to work obligations, I cannot be home. Children might see it as dad or mom are not home because there's something that I did wrong. They're abandoning me, or they are, again, they blame themselves for anything that's happening in the external. So having those conversations is very crucial at an early age, that it's nothing that they're doing wrong, and it's more of you doing what you have to do to care for them. So saying that in a calm way instead of disregarding them or their fears, and who could be a trusted adult besides the parents that they can confine in case that they do need that extra support. Do we have those things in place? Um, and I can say that a lot of people that are trusted adults are not safe adults. So keeping that in mind, that it's a relationship that is built throughout time, in case you have work obligations, right? Who are your go-to people that you've developed throughout time trust, and do the children trust them? Because you might say Uncle Tom is safe, but the child doesn't feel that way, right? And so it's important that we're also listening to our children when it comes to safety. Oh, wow, Brian. So you can connect with Robin. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, I love that. So integrating the children, and they can learn compassion. So you see how we can mirror compassion and resiliency by having the children join you in a lot of these things that we're part of, right? Especially around work and programs that we're part of. Thank you for asking that. I hope that supports your question, by the way, and if anyone else wants to provide feedback. Wonderful. Um, this is other things that you can do, especially through trauma. Think about trauma and something traumatic as a child naturally develops survival mode. In a survival mode might look different for each child. So they might be restless. So are they getting enough sleep? Are they getting enough play? Are they getting proper nutrition? So implementing a lot of care through the healing process. Going back to normal routine and a structure is vital for children's sense of safety. Expectations, what are the rules? What happens when you behave in this way? And instead of punishing, right? And I want to even reframe that word is having trauma-informed care to learn how to respond to children that might be acting and reacting a certain way after something traumatic. So encouraging them for small tasks so that they feel like they're not excluded from the family unit. I hope that makes sense. And talking to children about community recovery in that sense, they know that they're part of the world, they're part of and Brian, you just said it perfectly, right? That you run 3 community-based programs. Are the children a part of that so that they know that they're not just alone in the family unit, but in a community itself? Spend more time with them at night. They feel, if they do feel a little clingy, maybe they don't want to sleep by themselves, and sometimes we force them to. In asking this question, what is the child behavior telling me? And again, there's no bad children. There's just learned behavior or responses to trauma. So being extra patient. And sometimes we care more for our children and we neglect our needs. So if you find yourself being a little bit more impatient, having more anger problems, are you seeing a therapist? Are you seeing a mentor? Right? What are my health benefits? A lot of times we don't realize that our benefits covers a therapist. And so having these things in place so that you learn how to regulate your emotions on a daily basis so that you can serve your child in a better way. So if children are still having the reactions described that we just described more than 6 weeks after the hurricane, parents should consult a mental health professional for an evaluation, especially if those reactive behaviors are very extreme. Christie House, we facilitate therapy for children of all ages that have experience that are displaying, maybe some depression, some anxiety. We have the match program, for example, that are children that are still going to school, for example, and we see them and they see a therapist to learn how to cope in a healthier way. So see yourself as a mirror. The way you cope is the way that your child will cope. So taking care of yourself physically, how are you eating? What time are you going to sleep on a daily basis? What is your support group? Is your support group part of the happy hour group, right? That they cope with going out drinking, or do you create a safe environment where you can talk about things that are heavy in order to feel more supported and versus disregarding emotions? And so putting off major decisions too during this time. So, any travel plans, any holiday plans that you have in place, and create more of a structure. I love the saying, simple doesn't. A lot of times we want to do these big decisions when we go through something traumatic. Sometimes I say, don't make a lot of decisions at all. Keep the routine in place, right? Don't make big changes in your life, giving yourself a break. And I think this is harder said than done. Give yourself grace. If you're someone that has struggled with emotional regularity, meet yourself with where you are and find a small step that you can take forward in order to recover. So again, adults need to learn how to best support yourselves in order to best support the children, and really having this as your model as you're going through. These are some resources. The First Aid app has new features on who to contact, what are some sign-up classes that you can take. It helps you find hospitals around you, how to practice CPR. I'm CPR trained, and if you're not, maybe that's something that you can, one of those tools, and put it under your belt, right? Maybe they also have stories that where if you feel like you're not alone, you've gone through a disaster. Help Kids Cope is NCTSN is a lot of the information where we get our information around trauma. Read through their website. I always find it fascinating. You can put in the search bar if my child is displaying these kind of behaviors, how to address it, what's the definition of this kind of trauma. So keep yourself informed. I would say go to more trainings. And of course, Chrissy House, we have our 15 best practices, but you don't have to do that. Maybe there's in-person ones around your community that you can start being part of. If you're part of your church community, what are some trainings they're doing? Can you go to counseling? I always encourage, and they say for couples counseling, usually when people go into couples counseling, they're 6 years too late. So you can put that in perspective of the time you've been together. So if you are someone that's already struggling, start now getting that help. This is a number, disasters assistance number that you can call. Have that, save it, right? And again, download these apps to start researching what you can do for yourself today and your family. These are the resources that we use for the training today. SAMHSA, we've received a grant through SAMHSA, and they're great for disaster relief. And they have helplines. We have, again, all these different ones that you can just click a button when you download the PowerPoint and have them saved in your computer. And again, we just try to give you as many resources as possible. DCF is a great way to, if you go to their website, they have so many different trainings, and we actually help develop their human trafficking training, which is great. We're really involved with DCF. And so it's just important that we're staying informed throughout the year. These are some of the resources in Florida. So if you're here, you can definitely click on the PowerPoint again and download. But it's really all about helping how to cope through traumatic events. In NCTSN, it's known as the National Child Traumatic Stress Network, if anyone didn't know. This is my contact information, and we do like to take some time after, give yourself some time to ask some questions. If you ever want support from me, please email me. I love actually staying connected after trainings. We do have a lot of events coming up for Christie House, and it's all free of charge. Personally, I started Christie House as a volunteer in 2017 and slowly started migrating into the team lead, and now proud director of prevention and education. Do you or anyone have any questions, anything else that we can support you with? Thank you again, Robert, for sharing the PowerPoint once more. How are you feeling even after this training? And is asked if we're going to share the PowerPoint via email. Robert, if you want to support that question as well. I know that he dropped it in the chat, which is wonderful. And Marissa, you're very welcome. I'm glad this was very informative. And I hope that you feel empowered, right? That you feel empowered, that in a way, a sense of excitement that you can start doing activities in order to prepare, to know that you're not alone. Really comfort and better prepared. Good. I feel more prepared and excited to utilize some of this new prep information. I know, right? And same. I learned so much from all of you that I'm like, oh, I want a solar battery for my phone. So I'm gonna get that. A little more informed about how to support your clients. Good, Maria. Lots of great ideas. Good. Good, good, good. I love to hear it. Wonderful. Any questions or any other things that came up for you as we were going through the training? Oh, Laura, I'm glad. Good. And that's something that you can even do for your organization. Do they have a support group, right? And you can call it the resiliency support group, right? We in our team, we're getting grief informed, and we're finishing a training to create grief support groups, and that's definitely part of what we do and can do for the aftermath, for preparation. Good, Brian. Yes, take all the information and really share the resources with your community. Lisa, better informed and aware. Good. That's so good to hear. And just know my entire team knows that I'm here today, and they send so much love to all of you. They do realize the importance of this training, and they're just like, they can't wait to hear how it went. So I'll definitely pass along the feedback. Good. Any other information or questions that you might have as we're in closing? Any other ideas? Anything that you learned on how to respond to your children? Maybe some of the emotional tools that you received from this training, maybe help you navigate some of the trauma that you've been through and how to ask for support. And again, if you have after the training, if you want to email me, you can definitely do so. Um, but Eric and Robert, anything else you would like me to add in closing?
No, I will take it over from here. I want to thank you, Christina, for such wonderful information. I think it's very timely for a lot of our participants, and I'm seeing a lot of good feedback in the chat. I will address a question about whether or not the PowerPoint will be emailed. The PowerPoint is not automatically emailed. I'll copy it in the chat again a couple more times before we close out. It will also be posted on our website. If you need it and it's not posted yet, you can always email me. I'd be happy to get it for you. I see a comment in the chat says the links are not clicking or not clickable. So what I'll do is I'll copy my email. If you want to shoot me an email, I'll get that taken care of for you after the webinar today. But thank you again, Christina. I will take it over and provide a couple of closing items for everybody.
Wonderful.
Um, so I am going to post, ladies and gentlemen, I will post in the chat a link to the PowerPoint and the evaluation. Once I close this webinar here in just a moment, you will get a web browser pop-up that looks like what is on the screen. It is going to say the host or presenter would like WebEx meetings to open a website on your computer. If you click continue, you will automatically be redirected to the evaluation. You must sign into your FATA account to complete the evaluation. If you don't have an account, you can register for one at no cost. You may do so by clicking Haven't Registered Yet underneath the sign in menu. You must use the same email address you used when you registered for today's webinar when you set up your profile in FATA system. This is the only way for us to connect your webinar attendance with your survey completion. For CEUs to be reported to CE broker for Florida licensed healthcare practitioners, you must provide an accurate Florida Department of Health license prefix and number the first time you register. If you need to add or update your license number, you may do so by logging in and clicking edit on the professional information section of your profile. You will get a third opportunity to complete the evaluation through a follow-up email later today. The evaluation will close at the end of the day on Wednesday, November 5th. If you need assistance with logging into your account, registering for an account, or completing the evaluation, you can fill out a contact us form on our website or send an email to training@floridabha.org. As a reminder, we do not email statements of credit. Instead, after we verify your attendance and completion of the evaluation, a statement of credit will be posted to the professional development section of your profile within 30 business days. You must have attended the entire webinar and completed the evaluation for a statement of credit. We are not permitted to provide partial credit. As a reminder, the recording and materials used in today's presentation will be available on the FATA website within 30 business days. To access the recording and PowerPoint, visit www.fata.org, navigate to the Resource Center, and click on Trading Library as shown on the screen. Thank you everyone for participating in today's webinar. We'd also like to recognize and thank the Florida Department of Children and Families for funding today's education. Have a great day, everyone, and please hold for the evaluation. And Tamara, I see your question in the chat. I will follow up with you via email here shortly.